So with this year's Team of the Year just around the corner, I thought I'd share mine. But before I do that, let's look at what last year's Team of the Year was. Because the 12th man has quite an interesting turn of events this year. Let's just say that. So as you can see, this is the Team of the Year from last year. No real surprise that Donnarumma is in goal because of his success with PSG in Italy. And I'll be stunned if Hakimi isn't in there again this year. And you've got a perfect link there with the Portuguese Man City defenders in Cancelo and Diaz. God, Kante being in there. He was so good last year and a few years ago, wasn't he? Like now, this season, he's just been plagued by injuries. Of course, Lewandowski's no longer at Bayern Munich. He's at Barcelona now, doing very well there. And you may or may not remember, but the 12th man last year was Cristiano Ronaldo. So for him to be considered the 12th best player in the world last year to now be playing in the Saudi Arabian League is pretty crazy to say the least, isn't it? My goalkeeper this year is the Sevilla and Morocco goalkeeper Bono. Everyone will remember him for his performances for Morocco at the World Cup, but for Sevilla he was actually very good. His goals to game ratio was 0.77, which was the best in La Liga, which earned him the Zamora trophy, which just shows that he performed not just well for his country but for his club as well. And yeah, I mean those penalty saves were iconic as well in the World Cup. And in case I have to emphasise this isn't for me necessarily technically the best players, it's just the players who had such a high standard and were the best players for that specific year. I do think overall that Courtois and Donnarumma are better goalkeepers, but Bono had a better year than both of them. And I do think there are better left backs in world football than Theo Hernandez, but I think Theo Hernandez should be in the team. He's had one of the best years. In fact, I'd say the best year of all left backs in the world. Was outstanding for AC Milan as they won Serie A for the first time in a decade. And the way that he replaced his brother Lucas in the first game of the World Cup to then go on and perform so well and reach the final with France, he has to be in the team for me. This might be a controversial pick. I've gone with Eder Militao. Ultimately, the World Cup is, well, aside from the group stage, it's just a knockout tournament, like anything can happen. Ultimately, Brazil were knocked out on penalties. They didn't technically lose the game against Croatia. Like, yes, it was a disappointing World Cup for Eder Militao and Brazil, but Eder Militao, I mean, he can be excused with his performances at the World Cup to an extent. It's really what he did for Real Madrid, and he won the Champions League and La Liga with them and was really good. And initially when he signed for Real Madrid, he was really poor defensively but good going forward, but he's actually improved his defensive ability, so I think he deserves his place in there. Now don't get me wrong, Liverpool have started this season really badly, so the end of 2022 hasn't been good for Virgil van Dijk, but you've got to remember he won the League Cup and FA Cup with Liverpool, and they finished with over 90 points in the Premier League last season, which in basically almost any other season would win the Premier League, but Pep's Man City just absolutely dominate the Premier League for the last 5 years. And then the final pick has to be Hakimi. As we saw earlier, he was in last year's Team of the Year. He almost certainly will be in this one because he's been so consistent for PSG. Aside from those front three, is one of their best players. And of course from Morocco, he was completely outstanding, encapsulated by his incredible Panenka goal in the penalty shootout to win it for Morocco. Modric is a legend in the game, and that word legend is used a lot, but what he's done, especially for Real Madrid, is phenomenal, and Croatia actually. Again winning the Champions League, again winning La Liga with his consistent performances in his mid to late 30s, and on top of all of that, for his country, finishing third with Croatia is incredible. Modric has had a glittering career and continues to shine on the biggest stages for the biggest teams. He has to be in there. You could put Pedri as the number 6 or as the number A, but I've gone with him as the number A. He is arguably Barcelona and Spain's best player, or certainly best performing player of 2022. Because like I want to emphasise, this isn't necessarily the best players in terms of ability, it's just the players that have had the best years. Then finally, I've gone with De Bruyne, one of only 2 players who play in the Premier League in this team actually. He just has been so consistent for Man City as they won the Premier League yet again. The front three is pretty obvious. I'll start with Mbappe. What a phenomenal player. His hat-trick in the World Cup final, 2 goals in 2 minutes in the World Cup final, and yet sadly for him, France didn't win it. But aside from his incredible performances from France, he continues to be brilliant for PSG. He just has to be in the team, and surely will win the Ballon d'Or in the future. Speaking of Ballon d'Or winners, of course, Benzema won it in the year 2022, so naturally he kind of has to be in the team. It seemed like at times he dragged Real Madrid to victories in the Champions League especially. Just outstanding from him. I'm really happy for him as well because he's always kind of been in Ronaldo's shadow, so for him to have that year and have that Ballon d'Or moment is really great for him. And speaking of Ballon d'Or again, if Messi doesn't win it in 2023, I don't know when he will ever win it again. Not just the fact he was so consistent for PSG, but of course winning the World Cup for Argentina, icon. So my full team is Bono in goal, Hernandez, Eder Militao, Van Dijk and Hakimi, Pedri, Modric and De Bruyne, Mbappe, Benzema and Messi. And like I said, you could have Modric in the number 8 or Pedri in number 6, vice versa. But yeah, that is my team. I think most people will have Hakimi and that front three and Modric probably, but maybe you could debate the 2 centre-backs and the left-back potentially. Of course, football's about opinion, and as is FIFA, I'm no expert. I'm just like any other fan. Let me know what you guys think of my team in the comments below, and let me know what kind of videos you'd like me to make in the future. I'd really appreciate that.